my goal is to get you the best results. So if running got you the best results, then I would recommend that everybody runs. And if they were like, but we hate running, I would say, go run for your life, bitches. All of you. But I didn't, because running has proven not to be very effective for bodybuilders. So the first one is from Katie Erb. Katie is saying, in one of the Q&As, you had said that biking breaks down leg muscle. I was wondering if you could clarify. Were you referring to a spin type class where it's at high speeds? Biking is the main alternative for me while my foot injury heals, but not if it breaks down the muscle I'm working so hard to build. Thank you for everything you do. My life has changed dramatically because of you and your programs. Well, that is very, very sweet, Katie. Thank you so much for saying that. So here's the thing about biking. Biking, it's not that it breaks down muscle tissue well, it does, but there's not really an exact science behind your cardio, okay? So I don't ever like to go too extreme and say this happens or this happens or this happens with something, right? I like to make it more, kind of just look at the commonalities between things and then look at, what works best from experience and maybe what doesn't. So what I have never biked, okay? But what I have heard and what I have researched is that especially whenever you take spin classes, okay, because of the high intensity of the spin classes and because of the lactic acid buildup in the legs, your body can break down muscle tissue in the legs for energy. So the reason why whenever you are, well, let me shift up let me back up a wee bit. So whenever you are doing any kind of high intensity cardio, such as a spin class, where you are ramping it up and bringing it down and ramping it up and bringing it down, what can happen is after about 20 to 30 minutes of this kind of activity, your body starts to release cortisol. So the reason why your body starts to release cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is your body recognizes that you're burning a lot of calories and you're putting an awful lot of demands on it. So it, after about 30 minutes, realizes that if you continue at this pace of burning calories for any length of time, that you will be burning off far more calories than it can sustain. And then it may disrupt its equilibrium, or it may put the body into I was going to say it's not like a fight or flight reaction, but it may trigger the body's, it may not make it safe for the body. Your body's main, I'm finding it hard to find the words today. Your body's main goal is to keep you safe and healthy and alive. So your body wants to preserve fat tissue in times of stress because fat tissue is a source of energy. And your body does not want to preserve muscle tissue because muscle tissue is very calorie hungry. And whenever your body is stressed, your body doesn't know what's causing the stress. It just knows that there's stress. And so it goes almost into panic mode, or it starts to batten down the hatches, if you like. And it starts to say, okay, well, what are the things that we will need in a period of stress? And what are the things that we will not need in a period of stress? That's really how your body responds. So whenever you go on a very low calorie diet, or in a starvation diet, as we call it, massive calorie deficit, if you're not eating regularly, like in the 4-week shred program, you are in a massive calorie deficit, okay? And people always go, I tracked my calories, and I'm only eating 1,000 calories a day. But what they're not tracking is the fact that they're actually eating a massive amount of green vegetables that they're not tracking. So they're eating more than 1,000 calories. But the reason why the 4-week shred doesn't trigger the body's fight or flight or stress hormones is because you're eating consistently and you're actually eating quite high volumes of food. You're eating quite a lot of food. It's just that the food that you're eating is mainly protein and green cruciferous vegetables with very, very little fat. So you are actually eating continually, which is why people don't feel hungry in the 4-week shred and why your metabolism doesn't stall. But if you just go on a massive calorie deficit diet and you slash your calories, your body recognizes that there's a deficit. It enters starvation mode and it starts to get rid of the thing that is using up all the calories, aka muscle tissue, and it wants to hold on to the thing that will get it through the perceived shortage, which is fat stores. So understanding that's how the body works. Whenever you bike for long distances, or you use a lot of explosive muscle power in your legs, what your body does is it recognizes that at some point you are going to be expending more energy than it can sustain through its current energy reserves. So your body has two forms of energy, okay? It has glycogen that it stores in the muscles, and it has fat stores. It's your body's primary source of energy is muscle glycogen. Your body's secondary source of energy is fat stores. So your body will burn off muscle glycogen very, very quickly whenever you are lifting weights or whenever you're biking or whenever you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. So if you are using your legs whenever you're biking, okay, so you're biking, say you're up hills and down hills and whatever else, very quickly, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, your body is going to have burnt out all of the muscle glycogen in your legs, okay? So your body will then switch to, you'll say, well, that's fine, because my body will switch to its secondary store of energy, which is fat. Yes, it will if you're cycling at a slow, steady pace. However, if you're not cycling at a slow, steady pace and you're doing explosive movements and you're going up hills and down hills and you're basically doing a HIIT workout on your bike and you're doing it for a long period of time, your body will recognize that it cannot sustain that amount of calorie expenditure for a long period of time. So it will start, but it also will not want to switch to fat store because it will say, well, hang on a wee second here. There's a hell of a lot of demands being put on me here. We want to preserve this fat store because we're going to need this to get through this shortage. So your body will say, well, what can we do for energy source? Well, interestingly, muscle is actually a source of energy that your body will go to whenever it is in crisis management mode, or whenever its fight or flight is triggered, or whenever cortisol is released. Your body breaks down muscle tissue into amino acids, and amino acids are then fed into the tissues as energy. So that is what we mean whenever we say that you can break down muscle tissue in your legs, or why we don't recommend high intensity training. HIIT training is actually high intensity interval training. HIIT training is actually good during the year whenever you are not shredding. But if you're on a shred, which basically means that you're lowering your calories and you're increasing your cardio, you don't want to risk ever having your body release cortisol and break down muscle tissue. And you don't know at what point that happens because your body doesn't go, hey, hello, it doesn't like knock you and go, okay, just want to let you know that you're reaching the point where we're going to start like releasing cortisol and breaking down muscle tissue. Your body doesn't do that. So you don't know when the switchover happens. So as bodybuilders, we always say, well, we just want to get the most bang for our buck, right? We want to get the most effective fat burning strategies that there is while preserving muscle tissue. Those two things are uphill walking on a treadmill or Stairmaster. Why? Because whenever you're walking and your arms are moving and your legs are moving, or whenever you're on the Stairmaster and your knees are lifting up, your body is having to work harder to pump blood around the body. So whenever I'm on that Stairmaster, I am dripping with sweat because my knees are lifting and I'm walking on speed 7 because I'm extremely fit now. Whenever I first started, I was only on speed 5. So because that happens, your body is burning an awful lot of calories. It's burning an awful lot of calories, but it hasn't switched. It's not using. What even happens whenever you're on the Stairmaster, interestingly, is your body starts to burn muscle glycogen whenever you first go on it because it recognizes, okay, we're moving, this is great. But very quickly it goes, well, hang on a second here. There's not enough demands on our muscles for us to burn off our muscle glycogen. Let's preserve that as our first primary energy source and let's switch to fat burning. Let's use fat because there's not enough demand on the muscle. Like if you were doing big gym lifts, not enough demands on the muscle for us to use up the glycogen, so let's switch to fat store. So it very quickly switches over to fat store as its primary energy source after maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So that's why we recommend slow, steady cardio. If you're doing a HIIT workout or you're doing a long, explosive bike workout or you're doing a spin class, that doesn't happen. Your body doesn't switch over to the primary fat source. Your body stays doesn't switch over to its secondary fat source. Your body stays with its primary fat source, energy source, which is muscle glycogen. And whenever the muscle glycogen is used up, your body then goes into panic mode and it starts to break down muscle tissue. So to go back to your question, can you bike? Yes, you can. If you're saying you have a foot injury and so you need to do something. Sometimes, you just have to do what you have to do. If I had a foot injury and I couldn't do any, Stairmaster or walking, would I choose bike? Yeah, absolutely. Because I would rather do that than do nothing. So you have to kind of choose your poison. I wouldn't do nothing if I were you. I would do whatever you can. And if that's biking, then do biking. In the beginning, whenever I shredded for my first show, I didn't have a treadmill and I didn't have a Stairmaster. And I was really struggling with the amount of time I was having to put in at the gym because I had no one to help me at home. I didn't have a housekeeper. I didn't have a chef. I didn't have the business that I have now, but I was spending 3 hours to 4 hours a day at the gym. So I I borrowed my mum's stationary bike and I actually brought it to the house, and I used stationary bike for a lot of my morning cardio simply because it was the only option that I had. So if it's the only option you have, it's better than nothing. But if you can choose another option, do choose it for the reasons that I've just talked about. So I hope that helps. Okay, Marie Hicks. Hello, Queen Kim. I am finding that on Tuesday's quad focus day, I can feel the activation of my quads throughout every exercise immediately. However, on Friday's hamstring focus, I don't feel my hamstrings nearly as much. And I'm going as heavy as I can for the moment and lifting to failure. Is this normal? Is there anything I can do to activate my hamstrings more? I'm in phase 1, week 6 now. So Marie, really good question. To be honest, in hamstring, in glute, don't forget, it's not just hamstring day, it's hamstring and glute day. So you actually really only got 1, 2, 3, and then the finisher, 4 hamstring exercises. But your hamstrings, first of all, are nowhere near as big as your quads. Like your quads are separated into 4 muscles, which is why they're called quads. And they, take up the whole front of your leg. Your hamstrings are at the back of your leg. They're not separated into 4 muscles. They're not as big a muscle group. And your hamstrings get more of a stretch and a squeeze. Your quads work more through the contraction of the muscle. Like in a squat, whenever, the muscle is built primarily in a quad focus day, whenever you lower and then activate the quads and then squeeze them all the way to the top. That's when your quads are activated. With a hamstring, when they're activated most is whenever you get the stretch. So whenever you bend down, for example, with your dumbbell deadlift, and the hamstrings are stretched, whenever you get the stretch and then the contraction, that is when your hamstrings are activated. So there's 2 things that you can do. You can make sure that you're getting a full range of motion in your hamstring exercises. So make sure that you are getting the full stretch in the hamstring exercises, because it's harder to contract the hamstring than it is to stretch it. No, it's harder to stretch the hamstring than it is to contract it. So make sure that you're getting the full stretch and the full range of motion. That's something really, really important in hamstring day. The second thing is make sure you're going heavy enough, right? Because a lot of times people just aren't going heavy enough. And that's one thing that does cause the hamstrings not to be activated as much. And just FYI, I don't ever really feel the hamstrings while I'm working them. They feel fatigued, but I don't ever get a pain in them whenever I'm working them. But the only time I've ever really felt like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I actually had to lie in the changing room with my legs up on my bag elevated because I couldn't walk on them. My hamstrings were doing this, like the whole back of my leg. Was 2 times actually. 2 times when Mark has made me go way, way, way past failure in my last set of hamstring curls. Actually, you know what? It wasn't even on hamstring day. It was on quad day. So our last set of hamstring curls on quad day, Marcus made me go to 25 reps with 160 pounds on the bar or on the machine, which is really heavy. And he's just made me keep going. Come on, 5 more. And my legs were literally only moving this much at the end. I was like there was no full range of motion, but literally at the end of it, my hamstrings were spasming and burning, and it was not pleasant. So, you can push in your last exercises, you can really push past failure. Once you hit your 10 or 12 reps, if your leg is still moving, keep going. Even if it's only moving this much, keep going until literally you try to lift your hamstring back and your leg doesn't move. If you do that, you're going to feel a massive amount of activation in the hamstrings. But to be honest, hamstrings are not, because they're at the back of the body, they're really not a body part that you're going to feel an awful lot of activation in. When I feel my hamstrings the most, interestingly, is after a yoga practice. So after a big, say, hamstring yoga practice, what is happening is you are stretching the hamstrings and then activating them. So in a forward fold in yoga, for example, you will stretch forward, and then once you have stretched forward, you try to internally rotate the thigh bones. So you always say you're in a seated forward fold. You pull the flesh away from your glutes. Okay, so pull the flesh away sideways, so your sits bones are really on the floor, and then you obviously curl the toes back so the feet are flexed. And then you take an inhale, scoop in the belly button and try and reach all the way forward, to go further and further and further into the hamstring, into the fold. But where the hamstrings really get activated is when you internally rotate the thighs and stretch into the forward fold. The next day, whenever I've done a big hamstring practice, I can barely walk. My hamstrings are so sore, which just goes to show that the hamstring got worked more in the stretched position than it ever does in the contracted position. So just make sure that you're going 3 things way past failure in your final exercises where you can, especially in your final exercise, whether it's single lying leg curls or single standing leg curls. Make sure that you are lifting as heavy as you possibly can. That's really important. Quite often we can go heavier than we think we can go. And then thirdly, make sure you're getting the full stretch. Make sure you're stretching down far enough in your Romanian deadlifts, dumbbell deadlifts, and any of the curls that you're doing. Because, I mean, I don't want you to go so far that your hands are on the ground, because then it goes into your lower back. But just make sure that you go until you feel the big stretch in your hamstrings. Remember, the greater the stretch, the greater the activation. So let's go. Daniela Zepida Okoa. What a name. Hello, Kim. Cardio question. I have sports-induced asthma, which constricts my lungs during exercise and causes increased heart rate due to the lack of sufficient oxygen to the lungs. My body can do lots of cardio at all levels. Former runner until starting this program, but my heart rate is elevated even during slow, steady cardio. I want to burn fat. I don't want my body to go into stress mode, but if I work at a level where my heart rate does not elevate above 140, then I don't sweat and barely feel anything. Thoughts? Advice? Thank you, lovely lady. So here's the thing, Daniela. A lot of people, well, what I would ask first of all is, what types of cardio have you tried? Have you tried Stairmaster cardio? Have you tried walking and a steep incline cardio? A lot of people, especially when they're runners, and I'm going to just be honest with you about what I see a lot. This may not be true for you, but runners are used to going at a faster pace. And so the slow, steady cardio seems very pointless to them. And this may not be you, but I just want you to consider trying this on, okay? So here's what used to happen to me. I used to be a yoga teacher. Well, I still am a yoga teacher, but I used to practice yoga about 14 hours a week. Even before, though, I started practicing and before I started teaching, I would have practiced every single day. And because I'm the kind of person who likes things to be tough and I like to be challenged and I like a workout, whenever I went to a yoga class, if it was a teacher and she was like, today I'm going to do a lovely nourishing practice, I'd be like, oh dear God, I don't want nourishing practice. Just give me the fire. I wanted everything to be handstands and arm balances and inversions. I was like, because I was a very advanced practitioner of yoga and I wanted fire in my yoga practice. And I hated it if I went to a yoga class and they were like, we're going to do a really sweet and lovely gentle practice today. I was like, I only have 1 hour today to practice yoga. 1 hour, right? And you're not going to fob me off with all this sweet and gentle crap. I want to have a bloody workout. So I used to get so cross if, inwardly, of course. Outwardly, I was like serene and smiling. Yeah. Great, yeah, kumbaya, I'm all for the sweet and lovely yoga practice. And inside, I was like, I hate you bastard. But so anyway, what happened was whenever I started teaching, like my mom would come sometimes for me to do a yoga practice with me, and she would say, "No, don't kill me, okay?" My mom practices a lot of yoga, so she would say, "Don't kill me, okay? Just be just something sweet and gentle and nice." And I would be like, yeah, okay. So I would try not to kill her, and I would end up doing a really tough yoga practice. And I used to think inwardly, she surely doesn't mean it. She doesn't mean that she just wants a sweet and gentle yoga practice. Like she wants to leave here feeling sweaty and like she's worked, Like I never really believed that people actually meant it whenever they said they wanted a sweet and lovely yoga practice. So fast forward now to the way I train at the minute. Whenever I go to yoga, if they say, today we're going to do a class that like builds fire, I'm like, oh dear God, no. Because I've gone completely the opposite. Now I don't want any handstands or press handstands or inversions or any core work or anything. I just want to stretch, twist, fold, to feel nourished and balanced. I don't want anything that's going to tax my body, because I go to yoga now for the stretch. I go to yoga for the mind. I go to yoga for, I am much more into the yin side of yoga rather than the yang. And I never used to be. I used to hate yin yoga practices. So but what caused the switch for me was whenever I started training really, really hard in the gym. When I started training really hard in the gym and doing what I'm doing now, then I was able to, now I appreciate the yin side of yoga in a way that I never did before. So what I have found whenever runners enter this program is that you are so used to your cardio being yang, you're so used to your cardio being, long distance runner, like you were saying here, former runner. So runners are used, and I used to run, I used to do 30 miles a week, right? I've done it all. I've literally done it all. So whenever I was younger and very angry and in a bad relationship, I used to run to release tension from my body. And I found that, I find that runners come into this program and they're used to the endorphins that are released from running, and they're used to the feeling of running, and they're used to how hard, that everything that comes with hard, long distance running. So when they come into this program and I say slow, steady cardio, they go, really? And this may not be you. Okay, this may be you. I just want you to try it on. But this may not be you, but I'm just going to tell you my experience. But rather than just saying, you know what, I really don't want to do slow, steady cardio because it doesn't feel good in my body. Quite often, some people aren't even body aware enough to know that's what's going on. But what they mostly bring it down to is their heart rate. Now, you said you have asthma, okay? So you have sports-induced asthma. So you have yours is a different condition, but I just want you to try on that this may also be true. So people then come into the program and they say, I don't, my heart rate, I don't get it, slow steady cardio doesn't work for me because, I am the kind of person whose heart rate needs to do this, or I'm the kind of person who blah, 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 this. And so they have all of these different reasons for why they can't do slow steady cardio, or why it doesn't work for them, or why it's not effective. And really, it's just that they're batshit bored of walking on a treadmill for an hour because they're used to the endorphins that are being released from the running. And I totally and utterly get that, right? But so I'm going to separate your question into two parts. If this is you, even just a little bit, and just try it on, you may be like, no, Kim, you're completely wrong. And that's totally fine. I love being wrong, or incorrect, as we like to say, rather than wrong. But if it is you just a little bit, what I would ask you to consider is that two things. Have you tried all types of cardio? Have you tried walking uphill on a treadmill? If you walk uphill on an incline of 15 at a speed of 5 for 60 minutes, I would love to see that your heart rate does not go reasonably big and that you are not pissing with sweat. Second thing I would consider is, where do you do your slow steady cardio? If you do it in a gym and they are very obnoxious with the air conditioning, which they tend to be over here, then it may be that your body is just too cold to sweat. In which case you need to put on multiple layers. Whenever I do my cardio and I'm shredding for a show, I wear a sweat suit, right? I wear a sweat vest. So I wear a sweat vest, then I wear one of these over the top, then I wear a tight long sleeve top, and sometimes I put a hoodie on as well, because then I sweat buckets. So if you're warm enough whenever you're doing your cardio, you're going to sweat, right? You're not going to be walking uphill at an incline of 15 at a speed of 5 with 4 layers on and not sweat, right? So the air conditioning may be obnoxious, and if that's the case, you need just to put on more layers. The third thing I need you to consider is, I would never, ever put something in this program that wasn't effective, because my goal is to get you the best results. So if running got you the best results, then I would recommend that everybody runs. And if they were like, but we hate running, I would say, suck it up, buttercup. I don't care if you hate running. You didn't pay me to be nice to you. You've paid me to get you results. And that's what I'm here to do, to get you results. So, and I would say, go run for your life, bitches. All of you. But I didn't, because running has proven not to be very effective for bodybuilders, because it breaks down muscle tissue in the legs. The body can release cortisol. I know there's a lot of runners in this program have gotten really, really good results. And I'm not saying you can't get good results if you run, but I'm always coming at it from the highest pinnacle of achievement, which is, I don't know any bikini athlete in the world that stands on stage consistently every year and is a runner. So I don't, are there ways that you can work this program around your life? And are there runners in this program? Yeah. And do they get good results? Well, they tell me they do. And if so, perfect. But I don't know any bikini athletes that stand on stage that are also runners. So, but you may not want to stand on stage, and you may not even want to look like a bikini athlete. You may just want to be a bit fitter than you are, a bit tighter than you are. You may want to feel good in a bikini, and then that's perfectly okay. So if that's the case and you love running, rock on. Literally, if you're like, running is life, well, then I don't want to take that life away from you. You rock on and you run. But I really need you to break it down and examine the 3 things that I said. Have you tried the 2 effective, cardios that I recommend? B, is your gym obnoxious with the air conditioning? If they are, put on more layers, and I promise you will sweat. And C, can't remember what the C was now. Have you ever seen that in Home Alone where he goes 1 and he says this thing and he goes B and D, 1, B and D. I can't remember what C was. But anyway, yes, but if just consider that you may just be addicted to running and you may feel like you're not working hard, whereas actually you are. But if everything I have said is poo-poo to you and you're like, no, it's not applicable to me and my, sports-induced asthma constricts my lungs and I need to run, well then run. Like I'm not gonna put you in danger. I'm not gonna tell you to do something that's gonna like induce your asthma or, tell you, or harm you in any way. I'm just gonna give you my best advice. And my best advice is put on loads of layers, put the incline to 15 or get on the Stairmaster and try it and see. And trust that is the best kind of cardio. So, and if you want to burn fat and keep muscle tissue, that's what we recommend. But don't forget also, building massive amounts of muscle tissue through the training that we recommend will burn fat. Cardio is not the only thing that burns fat. What burns fat is having an enormous amount of muscle. So the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism, the more fat your body will burn. So it's not just the fat burning, it's not just the cardio in this program that builds the muscle, that burns the fat, it's also building the muscle. Okay, very long answer. Sorry, but hopefully you got a lot of that. So Jennifer Parrish, hi there. Hi Jennifer. Quick question about incline press and flat bench press. I have issues bringing the bar all the way down to my chest. I typically bring the bar down to where my elbows are parallel to the floor, 90-degree bend. Then bring the bar straight back up. Does it hinder muscle building if I do not bring the bar all the way down to my chest? I usually am unable to get someone to spot me and I'm afraid I won't get the bar back up if I bring it all the way to my chest. So Jennifer, if you don't go through full range of motion, then you're not going to build as much muscle as you possibly could. Now, it's not necessary. Well, okay, there's two things I'm going to say here. So you know me, I always love to look at all sides of the story. So the first thing is you need full range of motion to build the muscle. So if you're selling yourself short on your range of motion, you're not going to build the muscle you possibly could build. Second thing is that it depends what you mean by all the way down to your chest. So if I'm doing a flat bench, for example, and I generally, yes, I do bring it down so it literally taps my chest and bring it back up. But you're not like boom, it's not a big thud. I bring it down to tapping my chest or just a little bit above my chest. So you do kind of need to get it, but if you're only going to here, that's not full range of motion. Okay, so you're literally just getting a half range of motion. Are you working the chest? Yes, but you're not but if you're here, right? Look at this is me at parallel. If you go to here, that's where you feel the stretch. If in yoga, they're called heart openers. Okay. So for some people, bringing their arms to here, which is parallel, is enough to feel a stretch in the chest. I don't feel anything in my chest. To feel a stretch in my chest, I have to bring my shoulders the backs of my shoulders all the way back. Now I feel a stretch in my chest. So if you think about it, if you do this with me, your arms are out to the sides and you're to here, right? Even like this, even as if you're in a bench press. If you're here, you're probably not feeling a stretch. If you bring your elbows all the way back and push your chest forward, now you're feeling a stretch in your chest, right? So the muscle is being stretched and then contracted, stretched and then contracted. So that is a full range of motion and that is how the muscle grows. But there's there's two tricks that you can do to get a full range of motion. The first one is, if you ever notice whenever they do their bench press, they have a massive curl in their back. So they dig their toes right underneath them and then they lie down on the bench and then they do this, right? And they lift right up like this. So their bum is on the bench, but their chest is right up. And so then whenever they bring it down and bring it up, they have a smaller range of motion. So that's why powerlifters do that. They bring up their chest, for stability, first of all, because they can bring their shoulder blades closer together, but also because their chest is higher up from the bench. So they're always going for their one rep maxes. So they don't have to bring the bar down as far before getting it back up. So if your chest is right up in the air, like this, and you do this, you're not going down as far. But the benefit of that is, because your chest is right up in the air in an arc, you're getting the stretch in the chest. So when your chest is stretched, so when you bring the bar down, you're more likely to stretch into the front of the chest. So try lifting your chest up. Like do a couple of Google searches, or even actually I think in my videos I show how to do it. Lift the chest up and see how, if you can lift the chest up to get the stretch before bringing it down and pushing it all the way up again. The second thing that you can do, which is the only use I ever recommend of the booty band, is you can loop a booty band around your one of the ones that actually is in a full loop. Loop it around just below your elbows. Okay, so you would put it just below your elbows, and then you would reach up and you would grab hold of the bar and you lift the bar up, right? So then whenever you're coming in for a bench press, whenever you bring the bar down, you're bringing it to here, but the band is stretching. But what the band wants to do is it wants to come back together again, because that's where the tension is. The tension is out here and it wants to take the tension off. So as you bring it down, it just gives you that little extra lift at the bottom. If I don't have a spotter and I'm going for a bigger weight in a bench press, I would always have used a band, because it just gives you that little bit. It's like someone just doing this and giving you a little lift at the bottom. So if you bring it down and you give it a little stretch and push it all the way back up, it's a great way to give yourself a spot whenever you are doing your bench presses. But always try to go through full range of motion, and just make, and the thing is, if you ever get stuck, right? So if you ever do bring the bar down to your chest, you can't get back up, just tip it sideways so that the edge of it is on the ground, and then lift it up with the other hands. Don't ever be afraid to be stuck under the bar. In fact, do a crisis management session where just with the bar, you bring it down and you think, okay, if I was stuck here, what would I do? And practice getting out of it. Like practice like tipping. What I do is I literally just do this, and I tip the bar to the side so that it's on the ground, and then I just, push it up. Quite often people are like embarrassed and go, what will people think of me? And people will think that you were brave enough to stick a big weight on and give it a go. Really? I would rather people see me try a big weight and fail than see people, think that I was just pussyfooting around with like lighter weights. I don't know, that's just me. But also I just don't really care what people think in general anyway, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask for things like this. But so you want to make sure that you just pull up your big girl pants, get on with it, and do full range of motion. Okay, Heather Loudon, she's so funny. Hello, super shredded queen, she says. Getting there. Look, see striations on the shoulders. Oh, look at that bad boy. Not too lean though, but like my chest, super crazy. But I really can't lean out anymore for bikini. Okay, so she says, I'm loving the new workouts without super high reps. Yay! New phase 4 has been brilliant. I'm still finding it hard to do well in my progressive loading on my last set, doing 4 sets of 10 in most exercises in the new format. In the old phase 1 and 2, usually I had something like 12, 10, 8, and 6 reps. I found I could progress to bigger weights towards the end and burn out more on the end of my final set. Whereas now I'm dying in my third and finding it harder to push the weights up in the final set. Why is 4 sets of 10 reps better than 4 sets going 12, 10, 8, and 6? Thank you. So the thing is, muscle is built in the 10 to 12 rep range. That means scientifically proven. The most muscle is built in the 10 to 12 rep range. So if you're consistently, but then there are powerlifters, obviously, who only ever really do like 3 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5, and they still are able to build quite a lot of muscle. So, but for aesthetic purposes, what the general accepted view is that you should aim for between 10 to 12 reps in every set in order to build maximum muscle. However, when you're going to a new weight, right? So whenever you are increasing your weight on the final set, it's perfectly acceptable to do a minimum of 6 reps. You don't want to increase the weight so much that you can only do 2 to 4 reps. You want to always get 6 reps, right? But you want to stay at that weight until you can do 8 to 10 reps. So one week you may only be able to do 6 reps. The next week you might only manage 6 reps. The next week you might manage 8 or 7 or 8 reps at that weight. So you want to make sure that you're always, sorry, my kids decided to play very loudly just outside the door. You want to make sure that you are always working, if you can, working towards the 10 to 12 rep range But in a final set of an exercise, it's perfectly okay to do 6 to 8 reps, especially if you've just loaded a new weight on. But what I would say though is don't let yourself off the hook at 6 reps. Really acknowledge when you've truly failed. Just because it says 6 reps, don't stop at 6 reps. Like if you're doing Smith squats, for example, and you get to 6 reps and you think that you possibly could crank out a 7th, well then, give it a go, because if it doesn't work, you can just rack the bar halfway through. But don't be afraid just to lose a tiny bit of form on the Smith because it's locked in, to really just maybe it might take you 8 seconds to get from the bottom to the top. That's how much a final failure rep should take anywhere between 6 to 8 seconds to complete, maybe even 10. I'm not joking. People think if they haven't pushed the weight, if they're not straight up, that they, they think they've failed. If it takes them any longer than 2 to 3 seconds, your final failure rep in every exercise should take you between 6 to 10 seconds. I would say minimum 6 seconds. So if it's taking you any longer, if it's taking you any shorter than that, you haven't really reached failure. You have another rep in you. So just consider that. But that's why we recommend 10 to 12 reps, but it is something to work towards. You may only manage 6 reps at a new weight. Like whenever I increase my weight on a squat, Mark will say to me, okay, 6 reps minimum. And I know, the thing is, I'm so locked into my exercises. I know when I have failed. And I know when, in a V squat that we do, for example, it's very easy because you've got the bars here and your feet are on a platform in front of you. And it's very easy once the muscles in your legs start to go, to push your bum out behind you and kind of use your shoulders to lift. And I know whenever it's gone out of my legs and I'm starting to lift it into my back. And that's when I say to Mark, no, I'm done. He goes, come on, you have another one. I go, no, I'm done. And I know when I'm done. And I know that I've taken it out of my legs now and I've started to push it into my back. And I don't want to push it into my back because it hurts my trap. So you have to be very, very aware of when you've truly failed and when you just let yourself off the hook. And I'm actually going to make a whole video about this. Is it, did you fail or was it just hard? You have to know the difference between it was tough and it was failure. Because just because it was tough didn't mean that you'd necessarily failed. You probably had another 2 struggled reps in you. And if you have a spotter, it's even better. Okay, Petra Hope. Hello, Superwoman. Quick nutritional question. I read that it is important to eat more cooked veg than raw because they are easier to digest. I love my salads, especially spinach salad in the summer. I've always thought that the less you do to a vegetable, the more it will retain nutrition. There are people who only eat raw foods. Of course, there are some veg that are just not edible raw. Would love your input on this. As always, so much conflicting information out there, but your expertise mixed with common sense tends to put things into perspective. So Petra, I used to eat a raw food diet. I had a raw food diet for 3 years. I don't know where you've heard that eating cooked food is easier to digest. I mean, it depends on what you're eating. But actually, one of the things that I recommend for people who have digestive issues, bloating, stomach issues, or people who actually find it hard to remove the band of fat around their stomach, their hormonal things, is that they eat a portion of raw food with every meal. So whenever you eat salads or uncooked vegetables, they are absolutely packed with enzymes, with naturally occurring enzymes that haven't been broken down or destroyed by the digestion process. So it depends on which food I think you are referring to. Of course, there's some food that you shouldn't eat raw, and of course there is some food that is easier, more easily broken down by the digestive system whenever it's been cooked. But I think that a balance is really healthy. I mean, I love my salads and I love sprouts and I love, raw veggies. And I think it's really important to have a balance of those, but more than anything, it actually helps. Raw food contains a massive amount of enzymes, which really aid with digestion. So definitely make sure that you are eating raw food as well as cooked food. Not only will it aid digestion, but you won't destroy the nutrients that, are destroyed by cooking. And I think, as in anything in life, balance is key. So I think that there's, you can't swing too much one way and you can't swing too much the other way. I think that balance is key, and a little bit of everything is good for you, good for the body and good for the soul. Okay, Krista Brainard. Hi, Kim. I have another question. Why is it that some muscle grows faster than other muscle? For instance, it seems that upper body muscles grow faster and show more development than do calves, quads, and hamstrings. Is there any way to balance the two? I'm asking because I don't want to get top heavy. I'm doing the 4-day split right now, and it seems to have 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days. Would you suggest I throw in an extra lower body day? I was actually thinking of adding in sprints. I've researched and been told that sprints really increase quad, hams, and calves. What do you think? If you've answered this before, please let me know. There is a bodybuilding school of thought, Krista, that sprinting is actually good for the legs and good for building muscle in the legs. I'm not researched enough in that to know, but I do know some bodybuilders who swear by sprinting in off season, never in prepping season, but in off season. I do know some bodybuilders that swear by it. So what I would say is try it if you want. If you enjoy sprinting and you want to add in some sprints, go on ahead and do it. The reason why the upper body seems to grow faster isn't because we work it more, because the way the 4-day split is worked out, you're not working any muscle group more than once. So you may be working your upper body 3 times and your legs once, but you're only working your shoulders once, you're only working your back once, you're only working your biceps once, you're only working your chest once. Yes, there are secondary muscles that come into play, but the primary muscles are only being worked once. So you're actually only working the body once. If you're only doing a 4-day split and you can add in an extra day, I would add in a 5-day split. I wouldn't add. So if you give me the option, if you can train 5 days, which you're suggesting here, like adding in sprints on your 5th day, I wouldn't add in sprints. I would add in an extra leg session in the gym. So in the 5-day split, there's 2 leg days. I like to do primarily quad focused one day and then hamstring and glute focused the other day, simply because then you can hit these muscle groups hard. But the reason why, in all honesty, that most people's upper bodies grow more than their lower bodies or faster is because they don't work their lower body hard enough and they don't work it to failure. A lot of people work to what they think is failure, but whenever I train with them, I realize that they're not working to failure. Case in point, okay? I was training with my husband recently, and we were doing, different exercises or whatever. I said, so what would happen was he would do his 10 reps. Say it was a bench press, right? He'd do his 10 reps. And he would, on his 10th rep, or say his 8th rep, we were going for 10. On his 8th rep, he would go, and it would have taken him maybe three seconds to get to the top. So I'm like, okay, the work's gonna begin now. And I put my hands under, getting ready to spot him. And he'd go, boom, and rack the bar. And I'd be like, what are you doing? And he said, I failed. I said, no, you didn't. You didn't fail. He goes, yeah, I couldn't have done another rep. I said, you couldn't have done another rep by yourself. But I was standing here to spot you. You could have done another 4. And he was like, oh, but if you're spotting me, it doesn't count. I was like, no. Like, he's an ex-professional rugby player, so they always train for functionality. They never train for strength, or for appearance. So what I have realized is that most people think they're going to failure, but they're not. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking as I was driving, and I thought I would love to set up some kind of buddy program here in the Sculpted Vegan, or I would love to set up, but we're all over the world, so it would be impossible. But I would love for every person in this program to find themselves a gym buddy, to find someone who they could train with in the gym, especially on leg day when they can spot each other. Because so many people are missing out on gains in the gym because they don't have anyone to spot them. And so your progress is taking far, far longer than it could. I trained my legs as hard as I could possibly train them for 2 years by myself until I found Mark Getty and I realized what true failure was. And my quads have doubled in size in the last year. Doubled. I'm not joking. I have put on more muscle in my hamstrings, glutes, and quads than at any other point in my training. And that's in the last year. I started training with Mark last April. So that's in the last year. So, and the only difference is that I have lifted heavier than I've ever lifted in my entire life. Now, I understand Mark Getty is like a beast. And so you always feel very comfortable when you know that he's spotting you, because he's never going to let you go. But I think that the reason why people's lower bodies don't work or don't grow as big is because it's very easy to get your upper body to grow because they're smaller muscle groups and you can go to failure and you're not as scared, so you generally do lift heavier. With the lower body, people are afraid of going too heavy. They're afraid of squats. They're afraid of getting stuck under the bar. They're afraid of many things with their lower body. So that fear holds them back from going really, really heavy and really pushing through to failure. And that's the thing that stops the muscle from growing. It's not that you're genetically predispositioned to grow bigger muscle in your upper body than you are in your lower body. It's just because most people truly aren't going to failure in their lower body. So what I would suggest is really being very honest with yourself about, are you truly failing in your lower body? Is it just hard, or are you actually panting, sweating, groaning, and in serious pain? Like, I dread leg day. I'm not joking. I start dreading it from Monday night. I wake up on a Tuesday morning and I feel sick knowing what's ahead of me. And I swear I'm not joking. I feel sick knowing what is coming ahead of me. I never felt sick before leg day when I trained by myself. It was just like, I didn't really enjoy it. It was hard to get through, but I never actually felt physically sick. But I can tell you, every morning I wake up and I know it's leg day. Quad day, I don't feel that way after on a Friday for glutes and hamstrings, because I'm strong in glutes and hamstrings. But quad day, I'm strong in quads as well, but I just feel physically sick. And that is how you know that your leg day is effective. If you don't wake up in the morning and feel physically sick to your stomach about what's ahead of you, you're not working hard enough. So you just need to work. Most people just need to work harder. And if you work harder, your lower body will grow. Okay, last question. Kate K9. No, Kate N9. Hello, my muscle making queen. It's Kate. For working the muscles, what is the difference with using the dumbbells for incline and bench press versus the barbell? Could we just use dumbbells for these two exercises? Will the proper muscles be worked? I find it easier on my neck and shoulder issues to use dumbbells because my hands can turn as I reach extension, as well as on my wallet, since I don't need to end up at the chiropractor. I'm working through phase 4 and loving it. So I'm not sure what you mean whenever you're saying your hands can turn as you reach extension. I'm wondering if you mean you turn them like this. If that's the case, if you're turning your hands like this, Kate, you're actually taking all of the effort out of the front, sorry, hang on, what were you saying, the bench presses? Okay, incline bench press. So if you turn your hands like this, you're actually taking all of the effort out of the muscle where it's supposed to go. So with the bench press, what you're trying to do with an incline, you're working your upper chest, okay? With the bench press, you're working your middle chest. If the reason why we use the difference between dumbbells and barbells is with dumbbells, they use an awful lot more stabilizing muscles because you have to hold the dumbbell steady. With the barbell, because you're able to pull it, hold it, lock it in, and your body isn't using as many stabilizing muscles. With dumbbells, you have to actually, because you have to get your left brain and your right brain working, and you have to really think about moving them. So there's an awful lot less stability with the dumbbells. With the barbell, there's an awful lot more stability. So what you find is that with the barbell, it just works a different muscle group and it really locks it in to the chest. But with the dumbbells, because you have to use a lot more stabilizing muscles, it doesn't lock it in so much. So, but of course, like if it causes you pain, I mean, I don't know why it would cause you back pain to use a barbell unless you have some kind of shoulder issue. But anyway, it is better to do the program as it's laid out because it's laid out that way for a reason. Because if I had meant you to just do dumbbells, then I would have just put dumbbells. But the reason why I meant you to use barbells was because I wanted you to use barbells. But honestly, to be honest, though, what I would say is if you have machines, if you're going to a gym and you're able to use machines, you're actually better to use machines. Machines are much safer and they do lock it into the muscle a lot more. So barbells are actually a lot more stable and they lock it into the muscle a lot more. Just like in a machine, if you're doing a machine chest press, you're not having to use any stabilizing muscles whatsoever. So the only effort is going into your chest. So if you can use a machine, choose a machine. If you can't, choose a barbell. If you can't, choose a dumbbell. Dumbbells would always be my last choice, to be honest. But just use what you can. And if and it does cause you pain in any way, you're having to hurt and it's hurting you, then by all means, just you never want to hurt yourself. You never want to sacrifice your health or your body for the muscle. But if it's just a preference, you're better to do the program as it's laid out. So thank you guys. Have a lovely rest of the week. I will see you all next week for Q&A Tuesday. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love it if you would leave me a comment and let me know which part resonated with you the most. Which part did you most enjoy? I would also adore you forever if you subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time.